संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। So as you know, we'll be carrying forward our discussion of the Vedanta philosophy in brief. So today we'll be discussing the Advaita view of creation. Last time we had discussed how other philosophies, other traditional Indian philosophies deal with this subject, that is what they say about how the world was created. So before starting a little recapitulation, so first of all, some terms which we had learned the last time. I'll just share some one image. So you can see here, we should be familiar with these terms, because they will occur again and again in Vedanta. First, Brahman. What is Brahman? Brahman is the absolute reality. It is devoid of all attributes. That is called Nirguna in Sanskrit. Guna means the attributes. And Ishvara is the personal God, who is the creator of the universe and who is the object of our worship. So we can worship him in any form: Christ, Jesus, Buddha, Rama, Krishna, any form. So we are worshipping Ishvara. The third God is immanent as well as transcendent. That is, immanent means he permanently pervades and sustains the universe. He is not outside the universe. And transcendent means he also exists apart from the universe, and then he is not subject to the limitations of this material universe. So it is not that God is limited by the universe, he also exists apart from that. So he is both immanent and transcendent. This is very, very important. You have to remember this when we discuss Vedanta. What is Maya? Maya is ignorance. It conceals the real nature of Brahman and also makes it appear as something else. And it is non-different from Brahman. Prakriti is synonymous with Maya in Vedanta. It is not separate from God. In Sankhya, Prakriti is said to be another reality. Purusha is separate, conscious, and Prakriti is unconscious. Both are realities, but not in Vedanta. Vedanta, Prakriti is just a power of God. It is not separate from God. Like power of any human being is not separate from him. Fire of Sri Ramakrishna said that fire and its burning power, they are not separate. Similarly, Prakriti is not separate from God in Vedanta. So you have to understand the different connotations of this term in Sankhya and Vedanta. We should not confuse them. So now I will just recapitulate what we had discussed last time. So these are the view of different schools of philosophy which are contradicted. That is, they are not accepted by Vedanta. We had discussed last time. One school says that the world is just a product of material elements and they combine themselves together without any help and create the universe. There is nothing else behind that. Another person says that transformation of an unconscious nature is what the world is. Nature evolves and the world is created. There is nothing else beside nature which is responsible for creation. Then another school says that the world is a product of two kinds of independent realities, matter and God. So this is the view of some other schools, that there are two realities, not one reality. God is one reality, of course, and another reality is simply matter. So like a potter creating a pot. Potter is conscious, a pot is unconscious, matter. So potter creates the pot. So similarly, God is sitting somewhere and creating the world out of matter. In the fourth view, the world is an aggregate of different momentary elements. Buddhist view, so they say that there is nothing permanent in the world. Everything exists just for a moment. And the world is only an illusory product of our imagination. There is nothing external at all. Whatever is occurring in the mind, and we think something is present outside. So these views have been contradicted by Vedanta in this way. First, if you say that nature evolves itself, there is nothing conscious behind it. So Vedanta answers that the world is so harmonious. There is such harmony in the world. When we touch something hot, we feel the heat. When we touch something cold, we feel coolness. So there is a law to everything. So this harmonious world cannot be the accidental product of an unconscious cause. Something unconscious cannot create this world. It is impossible. And the next point deals with the Buddhist view that there is nothing external at all. It is all momentary and it is in the mind. That is called idealism. So Vedanta answers that if you say that there is nothing external, if everything is in the mind, then when I see a table, for example, how does the other person also see the table? Because you say the table is in my mind. So how can the same table be in his mind also? It is not possible. And the same philosophy is contradicted in the next few points. That if you say that what I am experiencing as the world now cannot be believed in, then how do you say that the reality of mental states can be believed in? If the external world is false, then why do you think that your mental states are true? What is the proof? They can also be false. Then another point against this is, unless different objects like a pot and cloth are admitted, what distinguishes a pot from a cloth? You say that the pot or a cloth or any other thing in the universe are just ideas in my mind. Okay. Then outside world, when you say this is a pot and this is a cloth, how do you differentiate between them? Because both are ideas. And they say that the dream and the waking state are completely identical, one school says. So here also Shankaracharya says they cannot be identical because objects perceived in the dream and waking state are completely different, as those perceived in the dream are contradicted in the waking state. In the dream we may go to London or New York, etc. But when we are awake, we find that we have not gone anywhere, unfortunately. Hmm. And the sixth point, the most subtle point, Buddhist Vijnanavadis say that the ideas of the mind appear as external objects. There are no external objects at all. It is the ideas of the mind which are appearing as external objects. So Vedanta says this expression, when you use that the ideas of the mind appear like external objects, this itself proves that you admit something called external objects. When I say that this building appears like a castle in the air, that statement has no meaning unless I admit that there can be a castle in the air. So when you say that the mental states only appear like external objects, your very statement proves that you think there are external objects. Otherwise, what are you comparing that to? So, these are difficult ideas to grasp, but when we again and again discuss them, it will be clear. So, this is how Vedanta contradicts the philosophies which differ from it. One philosophy says that God is the efficient cause and the world is the material cause, it is matter. So just like a potter is creating a pot, God creates the world, he is completely different from that. That cannot be, because if God creates the world like a potter creating a pot, God also must have a body. A potter cannot create a pot unless he has a body. He has hands and feet and eyes, he can see. So if God also creates the world like that, God also has a body. And if God has a body, then God will also be destroyed one day, because anything which has a body, that body has to be destroyed. That entity may not be destroyed, but the body will be destroyed. So God's body has to be destroyed one day. That cannot be. So God neither is he separate from the world, nor is he limited by the world. That is what Vedanta says. That is why it says that God pervades the world. But don't think there is no God outside the world. Like we take water in a jar or a glass. So the whole glass is supposed full of water. Now the whole of the inside of the glass is pervaded by water. But outside there is no water. So that water is limited by the glass. But if that glass is put in the ocean, then what happens? Then water is there inside the glass, but it is not limited by the glass. It is all around it also. So this is just a small way of trying to imagine what Vedanta says. So if the glass is the universe, God pervades the whole universe. But he is not limited by that. He is outside also, he is beyond also. That is the thing. It is, of course, it is impossible to imagine this with our mind, because our mind itself is limited. But as far as we can imagine that. So this is how the other theories had been contradicted and proved to be untrue by Shankaracharya. Of course, for a detailed discussion, please hear the earlier talk, otherwise it is difficult to follow what we will discuss now. So other theories having been denied, now let us come to the theory which Vedanta upholds regarding the world. What is the problem? The chief problem encountered in describing the nature of the world. As we had seen last time, the discussions of Vedanta are based on the scriptures, on the Upanishads primarily. We can only reason and discuss what has been told about the universe in the Vedas. We cannot spin our own theories. That has no value. Those theories have to be based on something. Otherwise, any person will formulate any theory. That has no use. So Vedanta says we have to go by the experiences of our rishis. Those experiences are there in the Vedas. And only upon those we can base our theories, not independently. So when Vedanta tries to formulate the theories, it will have to go to the Upanishads. Without that, there is no ground on which the theory can stand. So when we see the statement of the Upanishads, there is a problem. What is the problem? The problem is Upanishads say that the world has been created. God has created the world. But it also says that actually there is no multiplicity at all. Multiplicity means difference, different things. This is a table, this is a chair, this is a computer, this is a light. So these are the objects of the world. God has created the world. That is okay. But how do you say that differences do not exist? How can both these things be true? If God has created the world, He has created so many things, millions of innumerable things. So you say God has created the world, it is okay. But you also say that actually this multiplicity does not exist at all. Neha nanasti kinchana. That is the very famous statement of the Upanishads. Neha means na iha. Here. Na, there is no. What? Nana asti. Nana means differentiation. There is no differentiation whatsoever in the universe. It is all one. So how can both be true? This is the great task before the Vedanta philosophy. How to give forward such a theory which will combine these two. That is the problem. If creation is real, then how do we say that Brahman is without attributes, that one reality? Upanishads say there is only one reality, which is Brahman. But it also says that it says that God creates the world. So, if the creation is real, then how can we say that multiplicity does not exist? So teachings of the Upanishads about the disappearance of all multiplicity when Brahman is realized, we cannot understand if the world is real. If something is real, how can it disappear? It cannot disappear. But Upanishads say when we realize Brahman, then the world disappears. When knowledge dawns, the world disappears. That is what the Upanishads say. So, in our worldly experience, we also see that when knowledge dawns, something disappears. I am ignorant of how to work on a computer. When I learn that, my ignorance about the working of the computer goes away. So, when knowledge dawns, only one thing vanishes: ignorance. And scriptures say, when knowledge of Brahman dawns, the world disappears. So, what does this mean? The world is a product of ignorance. The dawn of the knowledge of reality can only dispel what is unreal, not what is real. This is the point. This is the central point, which is the key to the mystery of creation. This can combine both these apparently contradictory statements of the Upanishads. That the world is there, it is true. Till we are in the world, we cannot deny the existence of the world. It is absolutely silly to do so. But if the world is a mere appearance, then the appearance of the world and its disappearance, when we realize, when the knowledge of reality is experienced by us, then if we say like this, that the world is there, but even when we experience it, it is an appearance. And when knowledge dawns, this appearance will go away. This is the reconciliation. And this reconciliation can be found in the Upanishads also. Like there is one statement that Indra, this is in the Vedas, that Indra appeared in many forms due to the powers he had of creating an illusion, which is called Maya. So if you see those old movies and all, one demon was there and he created Maya and 10 of them appeared. So we see all that. So those are appearances, not the real one. It is said that when Meghnad was fighting Lakshmana, he did this Maya and so many Meghnads appeared. Lakshmana could not make out who is the real one. Then Vibhishana told him that he has this mark, others are illusory. So here also Indra became various due to Maya. So here also Vedanta says that Brahman is the only reality, but he is appearing as so many things because of Maya. What is this Maya? This Maya is called Prakriti in Vedanta, also called Prakriti. It is also called Avidya. There are many names of this Maya. So, Mayam tu Prakritim Vidyat. Know Maya to be Prakriti. And Maya Vitu Maheshwara. One to whom this Maya belongs, that is God. It is God's Maya which makes this universe appear to have diversity. God cannot be separate from his Maya, otherwise Maya will also become a reality. Then it will be like in Christianity they say Satan and God. But Vedanta does not say that. Vedanta says this power This Maya is just God's power. It is not separate from God. Otherwise, God cannot become infinite. This is the reconciliation. So the appearance of this world is taken as real by those who are ignorant. But the wise persons who have realized this reality find in it nothing but God. In that state of realization, when they come down, they again see this world, but they know that it is just an appearance. They also eat, drink, talk like us, but this world cannot fool them now. Like when we are traveling in a desert, we see a mirage. It is water. We are thirsty, we run towards it. When we go near, we find it is nothing. But once we know the mirage to be mirage, next time we won't run after it. So we are running after the objects of the world now. When we think they are real, it is fooling us all the time, drawing us. Eat this, eat that, go here, go there. But when we see it is all an appearance, actually, it can no longer fool us. This is the thing. So the stock example of Vedanta to make us understand this is that seeing a rope as a snake. We are going somewhere at night, one rope is lying there in the road, we think that is a snake. So if we know the rope as a rope, there is no illusion. So when we know the true reality, which is called Brahman, there can be no illusion for us. But the problem is Maya. It creates this illusion. So what does it do? There are two functions. First of all, it covers the reality. Secondly, it makes the reality appear as something else. So the reality, suppose the rope is the reality. So if we could see nothing, then that reality is only covered up, that is all. But it is not that we see nothing, we see something else. That is another problem. So not only are we not seeing God, but in place of God, we are seeing all this. This is the mischief which Maya is creating. It is covering up the reality, but also it is not satisfied with that. To make our work more difficult, it is also distorting the reality. That is the problem. It is making the reality appear as something else. So again, some terms I will introduce. In the beginning it will look difficult, but when we again and again discuss, it will become simple. First is concealment. Concealment is avarana. Avarana means covering up. And the second is distorting it. That is called vikshepa. Yeah, vikshepa and avarana. These are the two functions of Maya. This is one thing. So, when an illusion is produced in us by someone else, for example, now a magician, he waves a band and we see so many things. We should remember that although we are deceived by that magic, the magician is not deceived. He knows the secret. From our standpoint, the illusion is there, but it is there because of our ignorance, which prevents us from seeing the real nature of God. it makes us see something else. But the spectators can be fooled by the magician, but not the magician himself. So that is why it is said that God, although the Maya is God's, but God is not fooled by that because it is His Maya.
Under His control.
It is under His control. So Sri Ramakrishna gives the wonderful example that a snake and its poison. When a snake bites someone, that poison can kill another one. But although it is inside the snake, it cannot do the snake any harm. This is a wonderful example. So similarly, about Maya, we have to remember these 3 points. Maya is ignorance. It not only covers up the reality but also distorts it. And although it can affect the vision of all living creatures till they attain that realization. When we attain that realization that we are no longer separate from God, you see, we have become one with that reality. So till we attain that realization, we are under the control of Maya. And second point is, like a magician cannot be fooled by his own magic, God cannot be fooled by His own Maya. So Maya is nothing but the power of God. For God, Maya is not ignorance, but it is only the will to create this appearance. Maya cannot affect God. It cannot deceive Him. For us only it is an illusion producing ignorance. So that is why this Maya is also called Ajnana or Avidya. Jnana is knowledge, Ajnana is ignorance. Vidya is knowledge, Avidya is ignorance. And of course, it is also known as Prakriti in Vedanta. But be careful, this Prakriti is not the Prakriti of Sankhya. Sankhya Prakriti is a different reality. God is one reality, Prakriti is matter, but it is also real. In Vedanta, Prakriti is just the power of God. That's all. So, this is called the theory of creation in Vedanta. And if we want to trace the origin of Maya, we cannot trace it. Like we say that, okay, this was the time when Maya appeared in Brahman and created all this. It cannot be. Why? Because then we admit that time was already there. Time was there and Maya appeared at a certain point of time. But this is a fallacy because time itself is within Maya. When we attain the reality, time, space, causation all disappears for us till we are in that state. It again comes back when we come down in the world of Maya. So, Maya is said to be Anadi. Adi means beginning. That which has no beginning is called Anadi. So these are the things to be remembered about Maya. So Shankaracharya therefore speaks of Maya as the power of God. And of course, when conceived as a power, Maya is not a distinct entity, but it is inseparable and indistinguishable from Brahman. So that is why in Indian mythology, Sita is not different from Rama. Sita is the power of Ram. Radha is not different from Krishna. Sarda Devi is not different from Ramakrishna. This is now when we understand this, we can understand why it is said like that. So Shankaracharya, when he identifies Maya with Prakriti, he means nothing more by it than this creative power is non-different from God. Prakriti is one with God means God's creative power is one with God. This is Advaita theory. But Ramanuja differs from Shankaracharya. He is a Vishishta Advaitin. So Ramanuja says that the matter which exists in God actually undergoes modification. So this world is real. But Shankaracharya says, that is Advaita Vedanta says, that it is only an appearance. So I will just show you some other points we will discuss so that this theory is understood better. You can see, then it will be easier to understand. Now see, you can see here, I think. Yeah, you can see. So here what I have done, in blue I have written the theory which differs from Vedanta. And in red I have written how Vedanta shows that theory cannot be logical. Then it will be clear. So, first theory is that God is like a potter who creates the pot. So, potter, when he creates the pot, he is completely different from the pot. Potter is the efficient cause, the pot is the material cause. So, they say, what is the problem when we say that God is creating the world which is completely different from him? So this is their view. God is the creator of the world and creates the world out of matter which is different from him. So Vedanta, in answer, it says, then God ceases to be the only reality. If God is creating the world like that, then there are two realities, God and the world. World is also real, God is also real. Then how is God the all-inclusive, single reality? And then God is not infinite. Because then world is another reality, so how can God be infinite? God is limited by the world. This is how they answer the first objection. That is the first view. Second view is that, okay, you don't agree that God is separate from matter. Okay, we agree with you that God is not separate from matter. So now we say that matter is not separate from God. We agree with you. But we say that matter is real and it is within God. So now you should have no objection. I understand. You say that matter cannot be different from God because then matter will be another reality. God cannot be infinite. Okay. Now I say that matter is not separate from God, but it is something real and within God. Okay. So then in answer, Vedanta asks, okay, let us assume that you are right, that matter is something within God. So if matter is something within God, there can be two positions. either matter is a part of God. If something is within me, it can be a part of me. So suppose my heart is giving a problem and surgeon has placed that by what do you say, pacemaker. So now the pacemaker is within me, but it is a part of me. It is not the whole of me. It is just a part of me. So Vedanta asks that, okay, if you say that matter is within God, there can be two positions. Either matter is a part of God or it is the whole of God. Something within me can be the whole of me also. Everything which I am is that thing. That can also be. Now, if you say matter is a part of God, it cannot be admitted. It is not logical. If matter is a part of God, then God is composed of parts, like material substances, like our body. Body has hand, feet, eyes, nose, ears. Everything which is made up of parts has to be destroyed one day. Because destruction is nothing but going back to the cause. It is not vanishing. Destruction means only going back to the cause. This house is made of wood. When you destroy the house, one day it will be destroyed. So what does it mean? That it will disappear? No. It will go back to the cause, which is wood. There will be small pieces of wood in the place of this house. Again, when you cut them, they will become smaller pieces of wood. So, if you say matter is within God, okay. And if you say matter is within God and it is a part of God, then God is with parts. And anything which has parts cannot be eternal. Then in your view, God will also be destroyed. That can never happen. So that is gone. Matter cannot be a part of God. Now if you say matter is identical with the whole of God, then if matter is the whole of God, then God is wholly reduced to the world. And when God is completely transformed into the world, then there is no God after creation. If you say matter is the whole of God, then when God creates the world from matter, He is gone. Because the whole of matter has become the world. So God ceases to be after creation according to your view. So this matter, it cannot be completely separate from God, otherwise there will be two realities. And it cannot also be a part of God, which is within God. And of course, it cannot be the whole of God either. So, if we assume that any of these three is true, then God is subject to change. Or God has parts. Anything which parts is subject to change. So if God changes wholly or partly, if that change is real, this is the main thing. If that change is real, then God no longer remains a permanent, unchanging reality. If the change is real. So Advaita says, yes, there may be change. God has created the universe. He is changed into the world because He pervades everything. He is not separate from the world. It is God who has become all this, Sri Ramakrishna says again and again. Yes, God has changed into the world, but this change is not real. This is the difference. If God has become everything, God pervades the universe. If it pervades the universe, it pervades the chair, the table, etc., etc. It has become the chair and table. So if God has become the chair and table and other things, He has changed. But this change is only apparent, not real. It cannot be real, because if the change is real, then God is not permanent anymore. Anything which changes, it is not permanent. The milk we keep in the freezer with a little curd changes into curd. So it is not permanent. The house cannot be permanent. One day it will go back to its original cause. All the substance of the world are subject to change. Because they are changing, they cannot be permanent. They cannot be infinite. So, if you say that the world is real and God has changed into all the objects of the world, if you say God has really changed, we don't admit it. Because if God has changed, He cannot be permanent, He cannot be infinite. We are witnessing change, that is true. Vedanta says yes, we are witnessing change. We think that change has really occurred. Why? Because we are deceived by Maya. When ignorance goes, then we realize that the change was only apparent. Actually, there was no change. The reality cannot change. And anything which cannot change only can be stable. The world cannot give us peace, happiness, stability, etc., etc., what we are searching. Why? The only reason it is keeps on changing. Nothing is permanent here. But we are searching for permanent joy, permanent happiness, permanent peace. Now, how can we find permanence in something which is constantly changing? We can find permanence in only something which does not change ever. Otherwise, what would be the difference between God and the world? If God also changed like the world. So, this we have to remember. This is the important difference between Vedanta and the other schools. There is change, we admit. We have our bodies, minds, all the objects of the world. We are interacting with the objects. So, till we are in the world, in ignorance, we cannot deny this change. But this change cannot be real. Once when we realize the reality, these changes will cease to exist for us. This is the main point. So, for Sankhya theory of creation and Vedanta theory of creation, and Sankhya is realism. Realism means the world is real according to that. So, two main theories come to us in traditional Indian philosophy. First theory says that God has changed into the world, really changed, like milk changes to curd. This theory is called Parinamavada. Parinama means real change. Vada means doctrine. Advaita Vada, doctrine of Advaita. Vishishtadvaita Vada, doctrine of qualified non-dualism. So Vada is common to all. It means doctrine of. So Parinama Vada means there is real change. The world is real. Hmm. And what does Vedanta say? Vedanta says that no, we see change, we see diversity, but this is not real. It is apparent. That is Vivarta. Vivartavada means this doctrine that this change is only apparent. So here lies the main difference between other Advaita and the other schools like Sankhya, etc., which say that creation is absolutely real. Creation cannot be absolutely real because the whole thing disappears when we realize Brahman, which is the only permanent, unchanging reality. So, why we see Brahman as this world? Because due to God's power called Maya. It is just like seeing a snake in a rope. So, what is happening when we see a snake in a rope? We are superimposing the snake on a rope. This phenomenon of this superimposing a totally imaginary thing upon the reality is called adhyasa. So these terms slowly, when we come across them again and again, it will be automatic. First of all, we just have to remember real change is parinama. So realism, which says that the world is real, is called parinamavad. Apparent change is vivarta. So the theory of apparent change, which is the Advaita theory, is vivartavad. And this apparent change, what we see, why are we seeing? We are actually seeing the world where we should see Brahman. We are seeing the snake where we should see the rope. So, does that snake really exist? Not at all. Similarly, this world which we are experiencing, there will come a time when it will cease to exist. This means that it is not real but only a superimposition. This is what is called in Advaita adhyasa. In modern psychological terminology, this process is called a kind of projection. In an illusion, there is this projection. The snake is projected on the rope. Similarly, this world is being projected on Brahman. Like in a cinema, all those things are happening on a screen. Big car crashes and all fire and nothing, but when the light is again put on, nothing has happened to the screen. Nothing has happened. It was all apparent. But when we are watching, we also get excited. We start laughing, we start crying. We completely identify ourselves with those things we see, even those persons, we identify ourselves. That is the fan following. What is the fan following of these stars and all? These people are identifying themselves with the star. They may never meet him at all. Most of them never meet him. That star, he does not even know about them. But they are mad after him. I mean, what can be more silly than this? They will fight. I have seen that there were two very great players in Indian side when we were young, Kapil Dev and Sunil Gavaskar. So they were supposed to be quarreling. Nobody knows whether they quarreled or not. So two sides were created.
Soccer, same thing.
And they are fighting among themselves. I mean, stupidity should have its limit. That star doesn't even know you, whether you are living or dying, also he doesn't know. And you are fighting because of your this something, some illusory thing in your mind. So in a few years ago, I had heard that Pakistan and India, there is always a clash. When there is a cricket match, emotions run high. So once when Pakistan lost, a person in Pakistan broke his own television set. He is breaking his own television set. I mean, just see. This is called identification. It is completely false. It has no basis at all. It is only in the mind. So here also, this world, it has no reality whatsoever. It is appearing real temporarily. But when the realization will come, which has to come to all of us, then we will not be deceived. So, the Upanishadic accounts of creation of the world are to be understood in this sense. In the sense of the evolution of the world out of Brahman through its power of Maya. But this evolution or creation is only apparent. Other theories of Sankhya, Advaita are very common. Advaita accepts nearly everything. Sankhya theory of gunas, Triguna, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, etc., etc. All those things. All the evolution are process of evolution. It is called Panchikarana and Tanmatras and all that. Everything is more or less the same. The only difference is that Advaita says this is not real. When knowledge dawns, it will go. So, this theory of Advaita, Shankaracharya says it gives a most rational explanation of creation. This is the only rational explanation. If you want to keep God infinite, if you want to keep God permanent, then this is the only theory. If God is the creator of the world and creates the world out of any other substance like matter, then in addition to God, another reality has to be admitted. Then God ceases to be all-inclusive. His infinity is gone. But if that matter is conceived as something real and within God, and you say that this transformation is real, then we have to admit that God also transforms itself. That also cannot be done, because then if God transforms himself, then God is made up of parts and God will also be destroyed. So however, in whichever way you look at it, God cannot be subject to real change. If we see that God is changing, it is only apparent. So if we put together the arguments used by Shankaracharya to support the theory of this apparent change and his theory of Maya or Avidya and projection or superimposition, which is called Adhyasa, we find that they constitute a very strong rational foundation of the Advaita theory. So those who do not even believe in the Vedas, the Upanishads, etc., But they only try to understand the real nature of the world in the light of common experience. They say, we don't believe in your scriptures. Just teach us tell us how your theory is logical. Then also, these arguments they will appreciate because of their great logical and philosophical merit. Because they are so rational. Even if you don't admit the scriptures, if you go by logic also, then this can be the most rational explanation. And this theory of Shankaracharya has been discussed, multiplied, elaborated in so many scriptures that in one lifetime you cannot read. But there are a few very important ones, like one is called Chit Sukhi or Tattva Pradipika. Another one is called Advaita Siddhi, proving Advaita. That is by the great scholar and saint Madhusudan Saraswati. Then is Khandana Khanda Khadya. So this is Khandana. Khandana means refutation. So this name itself tells us that it contains the refutation of all other philosophies through the logical arguments of Advaita. So in these scriptures, unfortunately, most of them are untranslatable. Yeah, it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to translate them. But still, some have been translated. So in these, our one philosopher says that in these scriptures, which are elaborating the philosophy of Shankaracharya, that is the philosophy of Advaita, logical skill and dialectical subtlety attains heights scarcely reached by the most profound treatises of this kind in the West. It is unbelievable. The subtle logic of these is absolutely unbelievable, unfathomable. Even the first step, if we take, we try to understand, the mind will start reeling. How could they think of this? The first step into this, if anyone wants to start, he has to start with the primary book of Nyaya philosophy, that is called Tarka Sangraha. It is supposed to be, when in the introduction it is written, it is for Bala Nam. Bala means children. Here children means were children in the field of philosophy. So when we started reading, it is for children, we could also understand. But just a few pages will be enough. It is very difficult to grasp. Extreme, but it also is very enjoyable when we grasp it even to some extent. So if this primary work called Tarka Sangraha is like that, then we cannot even imagine what these extremely advanced scriptures are like. So the special thing about Vedanta is that although it is based on the scriptures, it is based on the intuitive experiences of rishis, but it does not ignore the fact that as long as the reasoning faculty of man is not fully satisfied and things are not explained by reasoning in the light of common experience, he will not accept. So this is the contribution of these great souls like Shankaracharya and all his followers, that they say this is the script, this is what the scriptures say. Our reasoning is based on that. That is true. But we will also show you that this does not make our reasoning illogical. We will tell you the logic also. We will give you the rational foundation also. So not only Shankaracharya, all other philosophies do this, try to do this. Ramanuja has his own logic, and the Buddhists have their own logic, those who say that everything is in the mind. And as I've told you, the fun of it is that if you read the views of one school, you think this can be the only truth. I was reading yesterday only how the Buddhists prove that there are no external objects. It is only what we experience is only the knowledge which is in the mind. So the way they put their arguments, we will think this can be the only thing which is true. So subtle. So that is the fun. So anyway, this we have discussed in the briefest possible way. What the Advaita theory of the world and creation is. So please take one Tylenol each before we end. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.